You are not here by accident. If this message found you, if this title pulled you in, if something inside you felt a quiet recognition instead of curiosity, then understand this clearly. You are not at the beginning. You are at the edge. Right before every breakthrough, reality begins to behave differently. Things feel unstable. Certain relationships shift. Old habits feel heavy. Your motivation flickers between exhaustion and sudden clarity. You question yourself. You question timing. You even question whether anything is happening at all. But what you are actually experiencing is not collapse. It is recalibration, reset complete, upgrade loading. And this is the final sign before your breakthrough begins. 1. The old version of you no longer fits right before a real breakthrough. Something subtle but unsettling begins to happen. You wake up one day and the life that once felt normal starts feeling restrictive. The same routines feel heavier. The same jokes don't land the same way. The same conversations that once felt engaging now feel repetitive and draining. It is not dramatic. It is not explosive. It is quiet. But it is persistent. You begin to notice friction. You sit in rooms where you used to feel comfortable, and now there is a strange tightness in your chest. You scroll through goals you once chased with hunger, and now they feel incomplete, almost artificial. You listen to opinions you once accepted without question, and now something inside you resists. Most people misinterpret this stage. They think they are becoming negative, ungrateful, confused, lost, and then they assume something is wrong because satisfaction is fading. But this stage is not regression. It is evolution pressing against an outdated container. Your identity has layers. You are not just habits and preferences. You are patterns of belief, perception, reaction, and expectation. Over time, you build a version of yourself that matches your current understanding of reality. That version feels solid, predictable, safe. But growth does not negotiate with safety. When your awareness expands, when your standards rise, when your nervous system becomes more refined, the old identity cannot hold the new consciousness. It begins to feel tight, like wearing clothes that used to fit but now restrict your movement. This is what feels like discomfort. You may notice that certain friendships no longer stimulate you, not because the people are bad, but because the resonance has changed. You may find yourself questioning long-held goals, not because ambition is gone, but because the target was designed by a previous mindset. You are not rejecting your past. You are outgrowing it. Think of it in simple terms. When a child outgrows their shoes, the shoes do not become evil. They simply become too small. Forcing yourself to keep wearing them only causes pain. In quantum physics, when an electron absorbs energy, it jumps to a higher energy state. It cannot remain in its previous orbit because the energy level has changed. The old orbit becomes unstable. It no longer matches the particle's new state. You are not a particle, but the metaphor is powerful. When your internal energy increases through awareness, discipline, hardship, reflection, or even suffering, your previous orbit becomes unstable. The identity that once felt right starts glitching. You feel displaced. This is not spiritual fantasy. This is psychological reality. As your cognitive frameworks evolve, your tolerance thresholds shift. You can no longer tolerate what you once excused. You can no longer enjoy what once distracted you. You can no longer pretend not to see what you now clearly understand. And that gap between who you were and who you are becoming creates tension. The tension feels like confusion, but it is actually misalignment. There is a version of you that operated on approval, distraction, comfort, and familiarity. And there is a version of you emerging that values precision, clarity, and growth. These two versions cannot coexist comfortably. So you begin to feel disconnected from your old self. You look at past decisions and think, why did I tolerate that? Why did I settle there? Why did I think that was enough? Do not interpret this as shame. It is awareness catching up. The old version of you was necessary. It got you here, but it was built for a different level of consciousness. You cannot criticize it without acknowledging that it carried you through what you did not yet understand. Now you understand more, and because you understand more, you cannot unknow it. That is the real source of the discomfort. You cannot go back to unconsciousness. You cannot go back to small thinking. You cannot go back to pretending something fulfills you when it clearly does not. This is the final stretch before expansion. Here is the part most people miss. The discomfort is proof of growth, not evidence of failure. If nothing felt tight, you would not be evolving. If everything still fit perfectly, it would mean you are still operating at the same level. The friction means pressure is building, and pressure is required for transformation. When muscles grow, they experience resistance. When a system upgrades, it destabilizes before reorganizing. When a structure expands, old supports must be dismantled. You are dismantling, not because you are lost, but because you are preparing for alignment. The reset is complete the moment the old identity feels impossible to return to. Even if you try to act like your previous self, it feels forced. Even if you attempt to enjoy old patterns, they feel empty. That emptiness is space being cleared. And space is necessary before something larger can enter. So if you feel disconnected from who you used to be, do not panic. Do not rush to rebuild the old structure. Do not mistake temporary instability for permanent loss. You are not breaking. You are shedding. The old version of you no longer fits because you are no longer that person. The orbit changed. The energy shifted. The container expanded. The discomfort is not a warning sign. It is confirmation. You have already moved. The breakthrough has not arrived externally yet, but internally, the shift has already occurred. And once the internal shift is complete, the external world has no choice but to reorganize around it. 2. Chaos precedes coherence. Right before everything aligns, everything feels unstable. Plans stall, messages go unanswered. Opportunities that seemed certain suddenly collapse. People shift their behavior without explanation. Your routine gets disrupted. Your clarity feels inconsistent. One day you feel focused and powerful. The next day you feel uncertain and slightly disoriented. Most people misread this stage completely. They think chaos means they are off track. In reality, chaos is often the final restructuring phase before order locks into place. When any complex system reorganizes itself, whether it's a storm system, a financial market, a biological organism, or even a thought pattern, it destabilizes before it stabilizes. Old structures must loosen before new ones can form. The system cannot evolve while remaining rigid. Your life is no different. You are not just experiencing random setbacks. You are moving through a phase transition. A phase transition is when something changes state entirely, like water turning into vapor. Before it shifts, there is turbulence. Molecules move faster, energy increases, the system becomes more dynamic. It looks unstable. But that instability is necessary for transformation. When your internal frequency rises, your external structure begins rearranging to match it. And rearranging does not look graceful. It looks like delays. It looks like misunderstandings. It looks like sudden endings. It looks like uncertainty. This is where weak minds retreat. Because the ego craves predictability. It wants control. It wants smooth progress. It wants visible confirmation that everything is working. But growth rarely announces itself with comfort. Right before coherence forms, noise increases. You may notice that old relationships begin to strain. That is not random. Misaligned bonds cannot sustain a higher standard of awareness. You may notice that opportunities you thought were meant for you disappear. That is not rejection. That is filtration. When your internal calibration shifts, anything that no longer matches it begins to fall away. This feels chaotic because you were attached to those structures. But attachment does not equal alignment. There is a difference. Alignment feels stable even when slow. Attachment feels urgent even when wrong. In this phase, life removes what is unstable so that something stable can emerge. Imagine renovating a building while still living inside it. Walls must come down. Furniture gets moved. Dust fills the air. It feels uncomfortable. Temporary disorder increases. But you would not interpret that as destruction. You would understand it as reconstruction. Your current chaos is reconstruction. The reason it feels intense is because you are still identifying with the old layout. You are trying to keep certain walls intact while the system is trying to redesign the entire structure. The friction you feel is resistance between the old map and the new terrain. And here is the critical point. Chaos is selective. Look closely. Not everything is collapsing. Only specific areas feel unstable. That is your clue. The instability is targeting what cannot exist at your next level. If your standards have risen, weak structures must fail. If your awareness has sharpened, illusions must dissolve. If your discipline has increased, distractions must lose access. The disorder is intelligent, but your mind labels it as things going wrong because you expected linear growth. Breakthroughs are not linear. They are non-linear leaps, and non-linear leaps require non-linear disruption. This is the part where most people sabotage themselves. They panic and try to restore the old structure because it felt predictable. They cling to expired opportunities. They chase validation. They try to fix what is actually meant to dissolve. That is regression. If you stay calm inside the storm, you will notice something powerful. Even though external conditions feel unstable, your internal observer is becoming stronger. You are watching the chaos instead of drowning in it. That shift alone is proof that coherence is forming. Coherence is when your thoughts, emotions, and actions begin aligning around a higher standard. It is when your energy stops scattering. It is when decisions feel cleaner. It is when your internal world stabilizes regardless of external noise. But coherence cannot form while outdated attachments are still intact. So the system shakes them loose. You may feel like you are in between worlds, not fully attached to the past, not fully established in the future. That in-between space is uncomfortable because it lacks certainty. But it is also powerful. It is the doorway. The chaos is not evidence that you are failing. It is evidence that your life is recalibrating around a stronger center of gravity. Weak structures collapse under pressure. Strong structures survive it. If something is falling apart, ask yourself honestly, was it stable or was it familiar? Familiarity is not strength. You are not losing control. You are losing illusions of control. And when illusions dissolve, clarity emerges. Coherence does not arrive dramatically. It arrives quietly. One clear decision, one clean boundary, one aligned action at a time. Then suddenly, what felt chaotic begins to feel precise. Opportunities reappear, but this time they match your new standard. Conversations shift, direction sharpens, momentum returns. And you realize something important. The chaos was never against you. It was clearing the field. Before every breakthrough, the system reorganizes. Before every alignment, there is instability. Before coherence locks in, chaos speaks. If your life feels slightly unstable right now, do not retreat. Observe. Stabilize internally. Let the restructuring finish. Because on the other side of this turbulence is something far more powerful than comfort. Clarity. 3. Emotional detachment increases. Right before a breakthrough, something unexpected happens. You stop reacting the way you used to. Situations that once would have triggered anger now feel distant. Comments that once would have ruined your day barely register. You notice drama around you, but you are no longer magnetized toward it. You observe more. You respond less. You feel a strange neutrality where there used to be intensity. At first, this can feel confusing. You might wonder if you are becoming cold, if you are losing passion, if you are disconnecting from people. But what is actually happening is far more powerful. Your nervous system is stabilizing. When you operate from a lower level of awareness, you are reactive. Your emotional state depends heavily on external input. Praise lifts you, criticism crushes you, attention excites you, rejection destabilizes you. Your internal state fluctuates constantly because it is tied to outside conditions. That is not strength. That is dependency. But when a breakthrough is near, your system begins upgrading from reactive to responsive. That means your emotional baseline becomes less volatile. Instead of being pulled by every stimulus, you begin choosing your response. This is detachment, not apathy. Detachment means you are no longer unconsciously entangled with every situation. You can witness without absorbing. You can hear without internalizing. You can evaluate without over-identifying. This is a sign of expansion. Think about it logically. If you are stepping into a higher level of responsibility, or opportunity or visibility, emotional instability would sabotage you. If your state can be hijacked easily, you cannot sustain momentum, so your system adapts. It starts conserving energy. Before this phase, you may have spent enormous mental energy replaying conversations, imagining arguments, anticipating reactions, overanalyzing messages. That constant emotional churn drains focus. It fractures attention. But as you approach a breakthrough, that waste decreases. You begin asking yourself simpler questions. Does this matter? Is this aligned? Is this worth my energy? And many things that once felt urgent suddenly feel irrelevant. This is not accidental. Your internal signal is becoming stronger than external noise. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Many people are addicted to emotional intensity. Chaos makes them feel alive. Drama makes them feel important. Conflict gives them stimulation. So when emotional detachment increases, they mistake calm for emptiness. But calm is not emptiness. Calm is control. Emotional neutrality is not a lack of depth. It is depth without instability. You are no longer easily manipulated because you are no longer easily provoked. You are no longer easily distracted because you are no longer easily triggered, and that changes everything. Notice how your conversations shift in this phase. You may speak less, not because you have nothing to say, but because you no longer feel the need to defend your identity. You do not rush to explain yourself. You do not argue to prove a point that does not need proving. That silence is strength. When you detach emotionally, you stop seeking validation through reaction. You stop feeding your ego through conflict. You stop chasing emotional spikes for stimulation. And when emotional leakage stops, power accumulates. Imagine a battery that constantly drains because multiple devices are plugged into it. Now, imagine unplugging those devices one by one. The charge begins to build. Emotional detachment is unplugging from unnecessary drains. The breakthrough requires stored energy. It requires clarity. It requires focus. It requires internal stability. So your system begins withdrawing from volatility. You may also notice that you feel slightly different around certain people. Their attempts to provoke you do not work the same way. Their approval does not excite you as much. Their criticism does not shake you as deeply. This can create tension, because when you stop reacting the way people expect and they feel the shift, some may try harder to pull you back into old patterns. They may escalate. They may test boundaries. That is not coincidence. Your detachment disrupts familiar dynamics. But that disruption is necessary. If you cannot maintain emotional composure in small situations, you will not maintain it when larger opportunities arrive. The breakthrough does not go to the loudest person. It goes to the most stable one. And stability requires emotional regulation. Understand something critical. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You still feel. You still experience joy, anger, love, frustration. But those emotions move through you instead of controlling you. They inform your decisions instead of dictating them. That difference is massive. When you are reactive, emotions decide for you. When you are detached, you decide with awareness. That awareness is the upgrade. You are becoming less predictable to chaos, less vulnerable to manipulation, less dependent on external affirmation. And that calm, grounded neutrality is one of the clearest signs that the breakthrough is close. Because breakthroughs require capacity. They require emotional bandwidth. They require someone who can handle pressure without collapsing into impulse. If you are noticing that you are calmer than before, less reactive, less desperate to engage in unnecessary battles, do not interpret it as dullness. Interpret it as refinement. Your system is stabilizing. Your energy is consolidating. Your reactions are slowing down because your perception is speeding up. You see more clearly now. And when you see clearly, you do not overreact. This is not you losing your edge. This is you sharpening it. Emotional detachment is not the end of passion. It is the beginning of power. 4. Solitude becomes necessary. Right before a breakthrough, your world gets quieter. Not dramatically, not with an announcement, but gradually, almost strategically, the noise reduces. Fewer invitations, fewer random conversations, fewer meaningless distractions. The phone feels less exciting. Social environments feel more draining than stimulating. And if you are not aware of what is happening, you will mislabel this stage as loneliness. But it is not loneliness. It is compression. Every major leap in nature requires a compression phase. Before a seed breaks through the soil, it spends time buried in darkness. Before a star ignites, gravitational pressure pulls matter inward. Before an arrow launches forward, it is pulled backward. Solitude is the pullback before propulsion. You cannot elevate while constantly scattering your attention. You cannot upgrade your internal state while drowning in external noise. Growth requires integration, and integration requires silence. When you are constantly surrounded by voices, opinions, expectations, and demands, your mind operates in reaction mode. You adjust yourself to fit the environment. You adapt to maintain harmony. You dilute your signal to avoid friction. But breakthroughs demand a clean signal, so life begins to remove excess interference. You may notice certain friendships fading without drama. Conversations feel surface level. Your interest in gossip drops. Your desire to be seen decreases. You would rather think than talk, reflect than perform, build than announce. This is not social failure. This is internal recalibration. The truth is harsh but simple. Not everyone is built for your next level. And that includes versions of yourself that were tied to certain groups. If your identity was reinforced by specific circles, and your identity is evolving, those circles will either evolve with you or dissolve around you. There is no middle ground. Solitude becomes necessary. Because your next version cannot be shaped by your previous environment, you need space to rewire. When you are alone, something powerful happens. Your thoughts become louder. Your patterns become visible. Your weaknesses stop hiding behind distraction. Your strengths stop depending on applause. Solitude reveals who you are without performance, and that revelation can feel uncomfortable. Because without external validation, you are forced to confront your internal structure. What do you actually believe? What do you actually want? What do you actually tolerate? Who are you when no one is watching? Most people avoid this stage by seeking constant company. They fill the silence with noise because silence exposes. But exposure is required for refinement. If you are approaching a breakthrough, you cannot carry unresolved internal chaos into your next level. So solitude forces you to confront it. You start noticing patterns you used to ignore, emotional triggers you rationalized, habits you excused, fears you postponed facing. This is not regression. This is strengthening. When you isolate temporarily, your internal compass recalibrates. You stop measuring yourself against others. You stop adjusting your rhythm to match external expectations. You start listening to your own pace. That pace is crucial because the breakthrough does not reward imitation. It rewards alignment. In solitude, you begin recognizing which desires are truly yours and which were inherited from environment, culture, or comparison. You start separating authentic ambition from borrowed ambition. That clarity cannot form in noise. It requires distance. And here is another uncomfortable truth. When you stop constantly showing up in every space, some people will interpret it as withdrawal. They may accuse you of changing. They may feel threatened by your silence. That is fine. Growth always disrupts familiarity. If your presence was built on constant availability, then your absence will feel like betrayal to those who depended on it. But you are not responsible for maintaining dynamics that restrict your evolution. Solitude is not rejection. It is strategic preparation. You are consolidating energy. You are sharpening focus. You are reducing external influence, so your internal architecture can solidify. Breakthroughs require stability under pressure, and pressure is easier to build in controlled conditions. Think about athletes before a major performance. They isolate, they train privately, they reduce distractions, they protect focus. Not because they dislike people, but because preparation demands it. Your solitude is preparation. You are not being left behind. You are being positioned. And the reason this stage feels intense is because humans are wired for connection. So when connection decreases, the mind tries to interpret it as danger. But not all separation is abandonment. Sometimes it is elevation. Sometimes the room empties because the stage is changing. Sometimes the silence increases because the signal is strengthening. If you are experiencing more time alone, more internal dialogue, more reflection, and less desire for surface-level interaction, do not panic. Do not rush to refill the space. Let the compression finish. Because when energy compresses long enough, it launches with force. Solitude is not the absence of progress. It is the incubation of power. And when the breakthrough arrives, you will understand why the quiet phase was necessary. You were not isolated to weaken. You were isolated to focus. And focus is what separates potential from realization. 5. Intuition becomes louder than logic. Right before a breakthrough, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. You start knowing things before you can explain them. You feel drawn towards certain decisions without having a spreadsheet full of reasons. You sense that something is wrong before evidence appears. You lose interest in paths that look smart on paper but feel heavy internally. And this is where most people sabotage themselves, because they have been conditioned to worship logic while distrusting intuition. Let's be precise. Logic is pattern recognition based on past data. It analyzes what has already happened and predicts based on that framework. It is useful. It keeps you rational. It prevents impulsive mistakes. But intuition is pattern recognition at a deeper level. It integrates micro signals your conscious mind cannot fully articulate. Tone shifts, behavioral inconsistencies, in energetic mismatches, internal tension, subtle environmental cues. Your nervous system processes these instantly, long before your analytical mind catches up. When you are approaching a breakthrough, your intuition sharpens. Why? Because your internal coherence is increasing. Earlier in life, your intuition may have been drowned out by insecurity, emotional noise, validation seeking, or fear. You second-guessed yourself constantly. You ignored red flags. You chased opportunities that felt wrong but looked impressive. But now something is different. You hesitate before saying yes. You pause before responding. You sense alignment or misalignment quickly. This is not randomness. This is internal calibration stabilizing. When your emotional volatility decreases and your distractions reduce, your awareness increases. And with increased awareness, your intuition becomes clearer. Here's the critical shift. You stop forcing decisions. You no longer need everything to make sense immediately. You are willing to wait until something feels clean instead of convincing yourself it's fine. This is power, because most mistakes happen when people override intuition with urgency. They fear missing out. They fear being left behind. They fear not progressing fast enough. So they override the internal warning signal. But when a breakthrough is near, desperation fades. You begin trusting timing. You begin recognizing that what is aligned does not require you to twist yourself into unnatural shapes. Your intuition becomes louder than your need for approval. And that changes everything. You may notice you walk away from conversations earlier than you used to. You decline opportunities that don't resonate. You distance yourself from dynamics that feel subtly draining. From the outside, this may look irrational. From the inside, it feels precise. That precision is the upgrade. Think about how elite performers operate. They don't just rely on conscious thought. They rely on trained instinct. After years of repetition, their nervous system reacts before their mind fully processes. You are entering a similar state, but psychologically. Your past experiences, lessons, failures, observations, they have been stored, integrated, processed, and now They are forming a refined internal compass. Intuition is not magic. It is integrated intelligence. That the reason it feels stronger now is because you are less noisy internally. When you are emotionally chaotic, intuition feels faint. When you are externally distracted, intuition gets drowned out. But when you are calm and focused, intuition becomes unmistakable. And here's the uncomfortable truth. As intuition strengthens, you will outgrow certain logical paths. You might walk away from something stable because it feels misaligned. You might delay something profitable because it feels premature. You might choose something uncertain because it feels right. This will scare your old self. Your old self needed guarantees. Your upgraded self values alignment over certainty. That is a massive shift. Certainty is external, alignment is internal. And breakthroughs require alignment, because if you build your next level on misalignment, it will collapse under pressure. Intuition protects you from that. It tells you when to move and when to wait. It tells you when something is clean and when it is compromised. It tells you when someone's words and energy don't match. Most people ignore these signals and pay later. But if you are noticing that your internal voice is becoming sharper, clearer, more confident, that is not coincidence. That is preparation. You are becoming less reactive to external persuasion and more responsive to internal truth. And that internal truth is not emotional impulse. It is clarity without noise. You will know something is right because it feels expansive, not frantic. You will know something is wrong because it feels constricting, not challenging. There is a difference between discomfort that grows you and tension that warns you. Intuition helps you tell the difference. When logic and intuition begin cooperating instead of competing, you become extremely difficult to manipulate. You stop being pulled by hype. You stop being intimidated by pressure. You stop chasing every opportunity. You move deliberately. That deliberation is a sign that your system is stabilizing at a higher level. Breakthroughs do not belong to the frantic. They belong to the calibrated. If your intuition is becoming louder than external noise, if you are sensing alignment more quickly, if you are trusting your internal signal more than outside validation, then understand what is happening. Your reset is not theoretical anymore. It is operational. And when your internal compass locks in, your external breakthrough is no longer a matter of possibility. It becomes a matter of timing. 6. Resistance peaks right before release. Here is the part nobody prepares you for. Right before a breakthrough, everything gets harder. Not easier, not smoother, harder. Doubt increases, fatigue increases, distractions resurface. Old temptations knock louder than they have in months. People from your past randomly reappear. Unexpected obstacles show up. Your confidence fluctuates for no clear reason. And if you do not understand this phase, you will misinterpret it. You will think you are moving backward. You are not. You are approaching the threshold. Every system under pressure behaves the same way. When tension builds inside something, it does not release gradually. It builds and builds and builds until it reaches a point where it cannot hold the pressure anymore. Then it shifts instantly. Steel bends under stress before it reshapes. Volcanoes build pressure before eruption. Muscles tear microscopically before growing stronger. Pressure is not the opposite of progress. Pressure is preparation for transformation. The reason resistance peaks right before release is simple. Your old identity senses it is about to lose control. Your comfort zone does not disappear quietly. It fights to survive. The habits you are trying to break will suddenly feel appealing again. The discipline you built will feel heavy. The confidence you developed will feel shaky. It will feel like the universe is testing you. But this is not mystical punishment. It is structural testing. If you are about to step into a higher level of responsibility, at power or influence, your system must prove it can sustain it. That means your weaknesses will surface one last time, not to defeat you, to expose what still needs strengthening. Most people fail here because they assume struggle means stop. They think ease equals alignment and difficulty equals misalignment. That is naive. If you lift heavier weights at the gym, the difficulty increases. That does not mean you are regressing. It means you are challenging your capacity. Right before a breakthrough, capacity gets challenged. You may feel mentally tired. You may question whether all this effort is worth it. You may compare yourself to others and feel behind. You may experience minor setbacks that feel disproportionately frustrating. This is the final stress test. The old version of you would have reacted impulsively here. It would have sought comfort. It would have abandoned long-term progress for short-term relief. But the upgraded version of you does something different. It stays. It observes the resistance without surrendering to it. And that is where power is built. Resistance exposes attachment. If you feel intense frustration, ask yourself what expectation is being threatened. If you feel tempted to quit, ask yourself what comfort you are craving. Pressure does not create weakness, it reveals it. And once revealed, weakness can be corrected. Understand this clearly. The intensity you feel right now is proportional to the level you are approaching. Small upgrades require small adjustments. Major breakthroughs require major resistance. Because you are not just shifting habits, you are shifting identity. Identity shifts are violent internally. They disrupt neural pathways. They challenge belief systems. They destabilize familiarity. Your brain prefers predictability. It prefers known discomfort over unknown growth. So when you approach the unknown, it triggers alarms. Those alarms feel like fear. They feel like self-doubt. They feel like overthinking. But fear at this stage is not a stop sign. It is evidence that you are stretching beyond your previous limits. Here is the most important part. Resistance peaks right before it collapses. When you feel like you cannot hold the discipline any longer, that is usually the moment right before it locks in permanently. When you feel like giving up, that is often the exact edge where breakthrough begins. The problem is, most people retreat one step before the threshold. They cannot tolerate the final wave of discomfort, and so they restart the cycle. Do not restart the cycle. If you are experiencing heightened pressure, increased doubt, unexpected obstacles, and emotional fatigue, do not panic. Stay steady, because the system is about to flip. Release does not feel dramatic at first. It feels like clarity. It feels like a clean decision. It feels like sudden momentum where there was stagnation. But it only comes after resistance exhausts itself. If you hold your position long enough, resistance collapses under its own weight. And when it collapses, expansion is immediate. So if everything feels slightly heavier than usual, if old patterns are tempting you, if doubt is whispering louder than before, understand what this likely means. You are not failing, you are being tested for capacity. And if you pass this test, not perfectly but consciously, the release will not be subtle, it will be decisive. Pressure is not your enemy. Pressure is proof that something inside you is about to break open. 7. Calm. Confidence replaces desperation. The final sign before your breakthrough begins is not excitement. It is not noise. It is not dramatic motivation. It is calm. A quiet, grounded certainty that does not need to announce itself. Earlier in your journey, you were driven by urgency. You wanted proof. You wanted validation. You wanted visible progress. You measured your growth by external signs, numbers, reactions, opportunities, recognition. And when those signs were delayed, anxiety increased. You questioned timing. You questioned yourself. You questioned whether anything was working at all. That was the old phase. But right before a real breakthrough, desperation dissolves. You stop chasing outcomes. You stop forcing conversations. You stop trying to control every variable. Instead, something shifts internally. Not with arrogance, not with fantasy, but with stability. There is a difference between blind belief and calibrated confidence. Blind belief is loud. It needs repetition. It needs hype. It tries to drown out doubt. Calm confidence is quiet. It does not argue. It does not beg. It does not rush. It simply operates. When calm confidence replaces desperation, your behavior changes in subtle but powerful ways. You make decisions without over-explaining them. You move without announcing every step. You let opportunities come to you instead of chasing every possibility. You maintain standards without apologizing for them. This is the moment your internal authority locks in. Earlier, you may have depended on external reactions to confirm your worth. Praise boosted you. Criticism destabilized you. Silence made you nervous. But now, silence feels neutral. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You understand that alignment is mutual, and that understanding removes urgency. Desperation leaks energy. It makes you overcommit. It makes you tolerate misalignment. It makes you rush decisions that require patience. Calm confidence conserves energy. It allows you to wait without anxiety. It allows you to decline without fear. It allows you to pause without feeling behind. This is not passivity. It is precision. When desperation is present, you try to force doors open. When calm confidence is present, you recognize which doors are already unlocked. There is a shift in posture that happens here. Earlier, you were leaning forward aggressively, trying to grab the future. Now, you stand upright, grounded, balanced. You are no longer negotiating your worth with the world. You are operating from it. This internal shift is subtle, but it is the clearest indicator that the reset is complete. Because once you no longer need immediate results to feel secure, you become extremely dangerous in the best way possible. You can endure. You can sustain effort without emotional collapse. You can delay gratification without resentment. And that endurance is what separates temporary momentum from lasting breakthrough. Understand something critical. Breakthrough does not respond to panic. It responds to stability. If you were handed your next level while still desperate, you would sabotage it. You would overextend. You would react emotionally. You would compromise standards to maintain it. So calm confidence is a prerequisite. It proves you are no longer operating from lack. You are operating from sufficiency. You may notice that you are less reactive to competition, less intimidated by others' progress, less obsessed with comparison. Why? Because you trust your path. You understand that timing is individual, that alignment cannot be stolen, that what is meant for your level will not attach itself to someone operating below that frequency. That trust removes frantic behavior. And when frantic behavior disappears, clarity increases. Your communication becomes cleaner. Your boundaries become firmer. Your movements become slower but more decisive. People may interpret this shift as detachment or indifference. Let them. You are not withdrawing. You are stabilizing. Calm confidence does not mean you stop working. It means you work without emotional turbulence. It means you build without needing applause. It means you pursue without obsession. It means you can hold your vision quietly without broadcasting it to feel validated. This is the internal architecture of someone ready for breakthrough. Because when opportunity arrives, you will not grab it with trembling hands. You will assess it. You will evaluate it. You will accept it from a place of strength, not hunger. Desperation says, I need this to prove myself. Calm confidence says, if it is aligned, it will stay. That difference changes everything. If you feel less frantic than before, if you feel less reactive to delays, if you feel less dependent on immediate confirmation, if you feel grounded even in uncertainty, that is not stagnation. That is readiness. The system has stabilized. The reset is complete. The upgrade is no longer loading. It is active. And when calm confidence replaces desperation, the breakthrough does not feel like a miracle. It feels like a natural next step. Because internally, you were already there. You kept looking for a dramatic sign, a loud confirmation, a visible shift, an undeniable external event that would prove everything is changing. But the real sign was never outside of you. It was the discomfort when the old version stopped fitting. It was the chaos that forced you to detach. It was the silence that isolated you. It was the intuition that sharpened. It was the pressure that intensified. And finally, it was the calm that replaced desperation. That is the sequence. Most people experience these phases and retreat. They interpret instability as failure. They mistake pressure for punishment. They label detachment as loss. And because they misread the signs, they quit one step before alignment locks in. But you did not quit. You stayed through the discomfort. You endured the silence. You survived the pressure. You stabilized your emotions. You stopped chasing and started calibrating. That is not accidental. That is preparation. Breakthrough does not begin when something external appears. It begins when your internal architecture becomes strong enough to sustain it. And now it has. You are no longer operating from urgency. Oh no, you are no longer reacting to noise. You are no longer clinging to outdated identities. You are coherent, and coherence is power. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions align around a higher standard, reality has no choice but to reorganize around that alignment, not instantly, but inevitably. So if you feel that quiet certainty, if you feel that grounded stability, if you feel less frantic and more focused, then understand this clearly. You are not waiting for your breakthrough. You are standing at the edge of it. Reset complete. Upgrade active. Now hold your state and let the world catch up.